Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We read from Bhagavad-Gita, 5th chapter, text 20. So, verse 20. Na prarishyat priyam prapya notvichet prapya chapriyam stira pudir asamudho pramavit pramani stita naprarishyat priyam prapya naprarishyat priyam prapya notvichet prapya cha priyam notvichet prapya cha priyam stira buddhir asamudha stira buddhir asamudha brahmavit brahmani stitaha brahmavit brahmani stitaha. Na never prarishyat rejoices, priyam the pleasant, prapya achieving, na does not, utvichet become agitated, prapya obtaining, cha also, apriyam the unpleasant, stira buddhi self-intelligent, asamudha unbewildered, brahmavit one who knows the Supreme perfectly, brahmani in the transcendence, stitaha situated. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the signs of God, is already situated in transcendence. Purport. The symptoms of the self-realized person are given herein. The first symptom is that he is not illusioned by the false identification of the body with his true self. He knows perfectly well that he is not this body but is the fragmental portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is therefore not joyful in achieving something, nor does he lament in losing anything which is related to his body. This steadiness of mind is called stira buddhi, or self-intelligence. He is therefore never bewildered by mistaking the gross body for the soul, nor does he accept the body as permanent and disregard the existence of the soul. This knowledge elevates him to the station of knowing the complete signs of the Absolute Truth, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. He thus knows his constitutional position perfectly well, without falsely trying to become one with the Supreme in all respects. This is called Brahman realization, or self-realization. Such steady consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. Naprarishyat priyam prapya notvichet prapya cha priyam stira buddhir asammudho brahmavi brahmani stitaha. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant, nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the signs of God, is already situated in transcendence. So we read a few previous verses from so that we have a bridge to this one. So in my last lecture in last Monday, it was 13th verse. We heard that Krishna says, when the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of the 9 gates. The body has 9 gates, and the indweller or dweller of the city is the soul, Atma, together with the super soul, Paramatma. Therefore is also known as Puranjana. So the material body, he lives happily in this material body with the 9 gates, who is like a city, identifying himself with that city or that place. He resides happily in the city of the 9 gates, neither working nor causing work to be done. That means the soul is not working, he's always situated in one place. Only with the help of the mind and intelligence and the senses, that means with consciousness, he starts to contemplate and endeavors for different kinds of engagements through the material body, especially in the human form of life. We have this choice to elevate ourselves or to degrade ourselves. So then in text 14, the next verse is described, the embodied spirit master of the city. The embodied spirit, the master of the city, of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature. It's also stated, Prakrite Kriyamanani Guna Karmani Sarvasa Ahankara Vimudatma Kartahamiti Manyate. Foolishly, those who are foolish, they think that I'm the worker, I'm the doer. But it's actually we're all controlled by the modes of material nature. Of course, originally Atma, the soul, is the doer, according to Vedanta, because the soul has a desire, it has consciousness, it has willpower, but he cannot do it on his own, so he needs the help of mind and the senses, physical body, and through them he expresses his different kinds of interests according to the modes of material nature, Tamaguna, Rajaguna, Sattvaguna. So therefore the first actor is the soul, the second actor are the 3 modes of nature, and the third actor is the Paramatma, the super soul, who is sanctioning, is just the overviewer and the sanctioner of the soul's desires. So then, nor does the Supreme, next verse is described, 15, nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. So that means the Lord is not responsible for our activities, for our sins, piously or impious. He's not responsible. Atheists or very materialistic people, they always blame God. It's his fault, why he's sanctioning, why he's arranging like that, what I did wrong, like that. But here Krishna says, The Supreme is not assuming anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. Their knowledge is covered, avidya, by tamasa, like a shadow, like darkness. It's the pure consciousness of the soul covered. Therefore, we cannot perceive the transcendental position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead situated in our heart. What to speak of in the spiritual world, or in everyone's heart, in every atom, the Lord is existing. Therefore, this Paramatma yogi, he perceives the Lord as Paramatma everywhere. The Brahmavadi, the Brahman realized person, sees he understands everything is resting on Brahman. Brahman is only Satyam, Brahma Satyam. Jagat Mitya, Jagat is temporary, Brahman is the eternal, this is Satyam. So therefore he is confident about his eternal nature, he is peaceful, Shanti, happy in that Brahman realization. Paramatma yogi is also satisfied and happy because he can see and perceive everything under the direction of the Paramatma, who is situated in everyone's heart. And then the devotee, he can see how Bhagavan, Krishna, how Krishna is helping him to engage in devotional service, inspires him, he gives him blessings, powers, intelligence, everything the Vaishnava sees is done by the mercy of Krishna. Because in Krishna, Brahman and Paramatma is included, as we heard from Srimad Bhagavatam from the first canto. In the beginning, Suta Goswami explains that Brahmati, Paramatmati, Bhagavaniti Shabdate. The absolute truth is actually one, Advaita Gyan, but it is perceived in three aspects, Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. So and therefore there are different kinds of transcendentalists, three kinds: the Paramatma yogi, the Brahman realized yogi, and the Bhakta, Vaishnava, who realized the Lord, Krishna, Bhagavan, Krishnastu Bhagavan Svayam. That he is the original Lord, he is the master of everything. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha. So we go to the next verse, 16. Krishna says, when however one is enlightened with the knowledge by which nations is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything, as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. Jnanena tu tat agyanam yesham nashitam atmanaha tesham aditya vaigyanam prakashya yati tat param. So this knowledge from the scriptures, transcendental knowledge, this chapter deals with this knowledge, but gives us detachment. That means vairagya or sannyas. Therefore, this chapter is also called karma sannyas yoga. That means how to attain by working, by action, detachment. So therefore, Krishna teaches us how to become detached although we act. It's not necessarily that we have to give up all kinds of actions and become yogi. That's very difficult in this age of Kali Yuga anyway. In previous ages this process was possible, but in this age, practically not possible. There's only very rarely somebody who is a yogi, who is really a yogi, completely renounced from everything. Because these yogis you don't see in the cities or in the villages. They're rarely seen because they're always situated somewhere in the mountains, Himalayas, or in a forest or in a cave. And even if they're appearing, you cannot see them. You cannot perceive them with your material eyes because they're so pure. But the yogi is not preaching. There are two different kinds of transcendentalists. Those who are absorbing, realizing themselves, and those who are preaching. Those who are engaged in self-realization, situated in a solitary place, or if they want to act as karma yogi in relation to the Supreme Lord, both is helpful. It's this instruction of Krishna here is helpful for every sadhaka. Sometimes we think, I'm not ready to be a transcendentalist now. This is very high level what Krishna is speaking here always, of the transcendentalists who are self-realized, self-controlled, never become angry, not being attached. I'm not like that. Therefore there's most of the people in this material world, they're not endeavoring this direction. They're quite happy with their situation, even with the suffering and lamentation and with the problems that they're facing. They think, this is the life, so let's going on. And hopefully life will become better. We try the best, expect the worst, we'll try the best. So the materialist, or those who are materialistic inclined, they're not concerned about to become happy, I would say, or detached from the material nature and become happy in Brahman realization, because they think what I can do there, what I can enjoy there. So they consider the enjoyment here in the material sphere, sense gratification is the all in all. There's nothing beyond that. So let's do as long as I can do it and work hard for it. So they're foolish, they're considered foolish. They work very hard for little sense gratification. For that they have to work very hard, and then they also have to go through so many sufferings. So only very rarely somebody becomes a Narayana Para. Even very rarely somebody becomes endeavors for Gyan, for knowledge about the absolute truth, who I am. It's very rare. It's stated in the 6th canto in the beginning. The Jnanis amongst the thousands and millions of those who are searching for realization, of self-realization, Gyan, only very rarely somebody becomes a Narayana Para. Narayana Paraksarve Nakudasha Bhivete Svarga Parvarga Narakeshu Apitulyata Darshana. And such a devotee can live in all circumstances, in liberated stage, in the conditioned stage, even in hellish conditions. He is always peaceful, Shanti, because he is always absorbed in devotional service. Like Prahlad Maharaj is a very good example. Although he had such a demoniac father, he was always fixed in devotional service. Although his circumstances, his surroundings were not at all favorable. Sometimes we think, only if everything is favorable, then I can meditate and practice bhakti-yoga. Actually, for a yogi, it is needed. You need a favorable place. Cannot be in a city. Has to be very out in the nature. No noises, no sound pollution, no air pollution, not cars around, and electronics Where to find such a place? And then he has to sit down in a solitary place without giving the address to anyone. Where I stay, you can visit me sometimes. He doesn't leave behind an address. He just cuts and renounces everything and goes somewhere in a seclusion and never seen anymore. So this kind of yogis, they just want to liberate themselves. They don't preach or want to help others in expanding Krishna consciousness. Prahlad Maharaj, therefore, he prays, I'm not like the yogi who finds to become happiness in mauna vrata, not speaking, and just in meditation, and to live in a solitary place. I actually prefer big cities. Prahlad Maharaj says, I prefer big cities because there are many people who are in ignorance, and for them I'm concerned. I have no problem for myself, na soche, na sochati, na kankshati, because a devotee on level of Prahlad, he's not hankering, no lamentation. He's not lamenting for himself. He never lamented for himself, although he had to go facing so many problems, so many sufferings. But he never lamented, because he was always absorbed in devotional service. And he took it as the Lord's arrangement for him to become more sincere, to become more absorbed, more sincere in the process of sadhana bhakti, of hearing, chanting, and remembering Krishna. Prahlad Maharaj is an example of smaranam. He's completely absorbed in the remembrance of Krishna, 24 hours a day. So he prayed, no soche, I don't have any problem, no lamentation for myself. But still, my Lord, he was sitting on the lap of Lord Nrsingadev, and the Lord wanted to give him all kinds of blessings. But say, I have no problem, my Lord, for myself. But I have one problem. I'm suffering because of the suffering of others. Paradukha dukhi. And for Vaishnava is paradukha dukhi, kripa moya. It's a mantra by Raghunathas Pranam to Sanatana Goswami, who offers his obeisances to Sanatana Goswami. He was saying, I was very reluctant to take the nectar of Krishna consciousness and the vairagya, the renunciation. It was very tough for me. It was very bitter, like neem juice. Neem juice is very bitter. And so Raghunathas says, I was very hesitant to go the path of vairagya, but mercifully Sanatana Goswami, who is paradukha dukhi kripa moya, very, very merciful and compassionate to the suffering beings like me. He took me out. He saved me. He gave me the opportunity to engage in the nectar of devotional service. I was hesitant. We always want to have nectar, we want to have enjoyment, but we don't want to have the vairagya. We don't want to have the attachment, because the vairagya, the detachment, is very bitter for those who are attached. In the beginning it is bitter, and in the end it is bitter. So material life is in the end bitter, and in the middle it is bitter, in the end, and in the beginning also. But spiritual life is in the beginning bitter, in the end becomes like nectar. Material is one nectar in the beginning and suffering in the end. So the devotee is intelligent. He chooses even by sadhana bhakti, following rules and regulations, it is difficult. It is one has to take so many things, perform so many things that we don't like. And we have to face so many difficulties also if we are practicing, relatives accusing you. Like Madhavendra Puri, he was praying. My family members, they all accuse me. You're a fool, you're a rascal, you're a renegade. Like that, because you're taking up the process of Krishna consciousness. But Madhavendra Puri, he says, let them speak like that, doesn't matter. I will go on with the process of Krishna consciousness, although it is very difficult for me to take it up. It is difficult. Because easy coming, easy going. But what we have to endeavor for something, what we have to work for it, hard, that will stay. Difficult things is not easily achieved, not easily attained. Cheap glass and plastic you can buy everywhere, but a real diamond, you have to pay the price. Nowadays, so many imitation brilliants and diamonds on the market. You can buy, made in China, very cheap. Look exactly like the same. But those who know us, those who know have the knowledge what is a diamond, they understand this is fake. This is a cheat. It's not real. Only looks like a diamond, but it's not. So a real diamond, we have to know what is diamond. So a real value of life, we have to know. What is the goal of life? What is value of life? We have to know. From whom we know? Only from Mahajan. Mahajana Katha Sampanta. You cannot buy it on the market. Ramananda Roy was saying, if Krishna consciousness or Prema Bhakti is available somewhere on the marketplace, the only price what you can pay is laulyam, the greed. The same greed what binds us as material world can also deliver us if we link it up to Bhakti. Bhakti here in the material world is perverted in form of lust, greed, and the result, anger, illusion, frustration. Right? That's anchoring us, that's binding us down to this material energy. But if we want to get free of it, we have to transform lust, greed, anger. Krishna, Bhagavatam gives the process. Tadhara chastamo bhava kamalobha dayasyaye chatare itar anavidyam stitvam sattve prasidati. To attain come free from lust and greed, anger, and the product and the origin is actually rajas and tamas. We have to engage in bhakti-yoga. Hearing, chanting, remembering about Krishna. Shenvatam svakatha Krishna. Punya shravana kirtana. Prityantakstu bhadrani vidunoti suritsatam. So the Lord who is situated in everyone's heart, Sri Krishna, will help us from within to dissipate this darkness, to enlighten the devotee from within and from without, from spiritual master and the scriptures. He removes his ignorance and elevates the devotee on platform of goodness. And of the platform of goodness, there is no lamentation, no hankering. And by sadhana bhakti, by attachment, gradual attachment to hearing, chanting, in association of devotees, regularly hearing Bhagavad-Gita, absorbing your mind in the Bhagavad-Sevaya, then everything that is inauspicious, abhadra, becomes practically removed. Even if still some inauspiciousness from prarabdha karma is remains in the body of a devotee, it is not a blockade. It's not an obstacle. It is not dragging him down. So powerful is the bhakti process that the devotee who is even in the beginning stage engaging in bhakti yoga, endeavoring sadhana bhakti, the acharyas say he's a liberated soul. Don't have to even become liberated. You can will become liberated by sadhana bhakti. So So therefore, Prahlad Maharaj, he was praying for those who are miserable, who think I'm enjoyer, I'm the controller here in this material world, but they're actually sufferers. They're not really enjoying. Now they enjoy, tomorrow they suffer. And sometimes they suffer so much they don't even realize that they think themselves enjoyers, but they suffer so much that they think this is enjoyment. But for devotee, this is not really happiness, because the devotee knows real Brahma Saukyam Tvanantam, the eternal happiness in Brahma Sukhi, in the spiritual realization in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, all the transcendentalists, they're happy. But the devotee who is absorbed in Krishna consciousness is the most happy. The happiness in Brahman, in comparison with the happiness of Krishna consciousness, is like a drop in comparison with the ocean. So the devotee is always happily engaged in Krishna consciousness, but in the same time he thinks about the benefit of others to give them the medicine. And therefore they're applying this knowledge for themselves, their self-realized personalities, and they also are ready to share this knowledge to help others, giving them Krishna consciousness. And it is said in the end of the Bhagavad-Gita, those who are doing that, giving Krishna consciousness also to others, not only concerned about their own deliverance, they become very dear to Krishna, not only in the past but also in the future. So in the 17th verse, here in 5th chapter, Krishna says, when one's intelligence, mind, faith and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge, and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. And then 18, the humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater. That's a very famous verse. Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmani Gavi Hastini Sunichaiva Svapakecha Pandita Samadarshina. So it's a Samadarshina. The Pandit, he sees with equal vision. Because he's humble. Prabhupada translates humble sage. A humble sage. A proud sage, he will not see everything equal. He sees duality. But a humble sage, he sees everything equally, because therefore he respects all living entities. Now there's some artificial endeavor made, to respect the outcast. Here in India, you heard maybe, no? And those who are higher classes have practically no rights anymore. If the outcast wants to give them troubles, they can accuse them and they have to go in prison. This is material. It means because the material world and the caste system is on the level of duality. Outcast, higher caste, middle class, lower class. What is that? This is material. On the spiritual platform, then as Prabhupada is saying, this real classless society. The classless society is Krishna consciousness. In Krishna consciousness, everyone has the same rights to serve Krishna, even if you're outcast, even if one is untouchable. Actually, this outcast, as I understand from Srimad Bhagavatam, previously in the Vedic time, they were very respected, because it was their karma to be an outcast. It was their profession, and they used their profession to serve the whole society, and therefore everyone was thankful, for their kinds of activities, because there were the shoemakers, the cobblers, the fishermen, the I don't know who's outcast. The tribals in the forest, jungle people, even hunters. They were all there in the society. No? And they were washermen. Washerman is also considered an outcast. The cleaner, like that, because he is engaged in all kinds of menial, lower activities, what the higher classes are not doing. For a devotee, it doesn't matter. He can do the lowest job, for Krishna. Actually, when we join Krishna consciousness, we always say, I have good education, have nice profession, maybe they engage me in this way, but they say, no, you clean first the floor and the toilets and the cooking pots. And And this way we become purified. And we start with the lowest position, menial service. We have to learn how to do menial service. Therefore, even the menial service in the Varna Shandara, even the outcasts, it is respected. And even they follow principles. They had their own principles. They had their own family and tradition, like that. And that's very much respected. This is described in the 7th canto by Narad Muni to Yudhishthira Maharaj. He describes the Varnashram system and also the outcast. How everyone is actually included. And everyone is ultimately has the opportunity to engage in devotional service. And this is the real oneness. Materialists want to make everything same materially. Now, everyone should either become high class, but everyone can become high class. It's not interesting for the high class people. And therefore, they want to keep everyone low. And therefore, more and more people become lower and lower and neglected and mistreated and abused. And then naturally they are revolting against the higher castes, and then there's so many troubles, so many politics are going on. But the devotee is actually not engaged in this kind of politics. And ultimately, everyone is a devotee. Hari-chan means we are devotee of Hari, of Krishna. Right? Hari-chan is a devotee of Krishna. That means everyone is a devotee of Krishna. And from that point of view, nobody is lower and higher. Actually, Bhagavatam says, if a Brahmana doesn't know Brahman and is not engaging in devotional service, he's not a Brahmana. He's a Svabhaka, dog eater. And the dog eater who is engaged in Krishna consciousness, he can become better than a Brahmana. This is Shastra. This is Bhagavatam saying. Devahuti, the 3rd canto. Aho batas vapachate garyan yachivate vardata nama tubhyam te pusta paste chuhuvu shashnur arya pramanuchur nama grinanti ete. How wonderful. She was amazed. Aho means amazement. I'm so much amazed that even a dog eater, Svapaka, if he chants the name, the pure holy name of Krishna, Hari name, Harinam even Kevalam. Nastyeva Gatyaranyataha. If you chant this name of the Lord, Harinam, then even we become free of all kinds of sins. Pararabdha and apararabdha karmas, that means our birthright, lower or higher, profession, impurities like that, from samskaras, from previous life, they all become washed away by holy name. For somebody who chants holy name, even if he comes from a lower class, he becomes better than a Brahmana. He already performed all sacrifices. All tapasya, tepus tapas, shashnur. He took already bath in all the holy places. Tepus tapas, shashnur, Arya is the best of the cultured people. So all glories to them who are engaging in the holy name. Haridas Thakur, he was an outcast, by birth, but Lord Chaitanya elevated him on level of Namacharya, the Acharya of the holy name. And Advaita Acharya was even sharing the first plate of the how we say, the patra, the plate, given to offered to the forefathers. The first plate he offered to Haridas Thakur. It is described one should offer the first plate to a qualified brahmana. Haridas Thakur humbly was requesting Advaita, but how you can serve me this plate? I'm an outcast. Offer it to a qualified brahmana. But Advaita Acharya says, you are first class brahmana because you're chanting always holy name. You're chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra all the time. So by feeding you, I'm feeding thousands of brahmanas at the same time. Because one Vaishnava is like thousands of brahmanas. So why have to feed 1,000 brahmanas if I have one qualified Vaishnava here? So Advaita Acharya, Lord Chaitanya, all Lord Chaitanya's associates, they respected Advaita Acharya as a great Vaishnava, greatest Vaishnava and Acharya of the holy name. One time Haridas Thakur was put in prison because Muslims they thought he was deviating from the Quran scripture. He's not following Quran Dharma, he's following a Hindu Dharma process. And that is greatly to be punished by the Muslim law. So they wanted to put him in prison. But he was always chanting holy name. And he was so much holy person. So that when they brought him to the prison, he was so famous. Then all the prisoners who were in the prison, they were admiring him and requesting, please give us blessing, please, because you are sadhu, you are a holy man, give us blessing, give us blessing to come out. They expected, that we can, that our misery will be over. Then Haridas Thakur gave them blessing because they were chanting the holy name. They were at the same time, they were also chanting, imitating Haridas Thakur's chanting and also requesting for mercy. And then Haridas was saying, I give you blessing, always remain as you are now. Then they were all surprised. What does this mean? Should we stay in prison eternally now? But Haridas Thakur actually meant, stay always in Krishna consciousness. Krishna matir astu. Actually, that's the blessing of the Vaishnava. Always become Krishna conscious, and if you are Krishna conscious, then he will say Krishna Rahu. What is it? Krishna Matir Rahu. Always remain in Krishna consciousness. Never forget Krishna. Always remember Krishna, never forget him. This is actually the best blessing what one can receive. So Haridas Thakur gave the highest blessing, but the dacoits, they took this highest blessing as a curse. They thought, now we are in prison. He cursed us to remain in prison. Actually, Narottam Das Thakur, he said, for a Vaishnava, doesn't matter. He's in prison, he's in the forest, he's in the city, he's in a temple, he lives privately, because he always chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, he always remembering Krishna, always lives in the Vrindavan mood, so he always lives in Vrindavan. So even the prison will become Vrindavan. Even hell will become Vrindavan if the consciousness is Krishna conscious. So therefore the duality, material duality, is not an obstacle. the happiness and and the stress of material nature is coming and going. Matras bhajas tu kaunteya shidushna sukha dukkha agama paina nityas tamsta dikshvasa bharata. So the devotee is tolerating, is pandit. And therefore he gives everyone opportunity freely to receive Krishna consciousness. Like Srila Prabhupada. There was one time a gentleman, he came to Prabhupada Darshan and he chastised Prabhupada a little that he is not equal to everyone, that he is partial and that he is criticizing, chastising scientists and monists and Vedantists and impersonalistic people and yogis. Prabhupada, he didn't shut his mouth. He told everyone what they are. He was bold. He was a bold preacher. He had also the caliber for it, the realization of it. If we imitate, then maybe we get a reaction for it. But Prabhupada, he was realized. He's a realized person, and therefore he could speak like that. And he also had a certain seniority and deepness, and therefore people could accept it. But this gentleman, he thought, you are partial. You are not Pandita Samadarshina. And Prabhupada said, no, I cannot be Pandita Samadarshina because this is a very high level. I'm not on that level. I'm Madhyama. I have to make distinction because I'm a preacher. I have a mission, because Guru gave me mission. It's not my mission. Guru gives me mission. I didn't invent this process. It's coming down to me. So I didn't invent it. So it is my mission to do it, to do this. And therefore on the preaching work I have to make distinction. Madhyama Adhikari makes distinction. Who is demon, who is devotee, who is an innocent, who is Krishna. And he has faith accordingly. And he ignores those who are not devotee. And he makes friendship with the devotees. And he helps the innocent, the new devotees, or people who are innocent. Therefore, I have to make distinction. But in spreading Krishna consciousness, by giving the people books and the holy name, I'm equally giving them the opportunity. And then later, this man was quite happy with Srila Prabhupada. He didn't tell this Prabhupada directly. Only later on he told the devotees, Swamiji is really Pandita Samadarshina. He has equal vision because he is giving Krishna consciousness equally to everyone, without distinction, who is qualified and who is not. Because that's Lord Chaitanya's movement, that's Lord Chaitanya's great mercy. When Lord Chaitanya and the Panchatattva were spreading Krishna consciousness, they didn't were looking who is qualified and who was not. Who was elevated and who was low class, who was if somebody was literate or illiterate, old man, young man, children, women, in class and out class, everyone got the opportunity to chant the holy name and became overflooded with this process of Krishna consciousness, and this process is still going on. And Srila Prabhupada, he had this faith. He had this faith. He was fully convinced about the mission given by Lord Chaitanya and transmitted by his Guru Maharaj. Therefore, he made this big endeavor to go to the West, to spread Krishna consciousness in the West. Today is the 53rd year of Prabhupada's arrival in America, right? It's today, according to lunar calendar. According to solar calendar, it's 17th September 1965. Srila Prabhupada arrived on the Jaladuta, on this boat ship in Boston, Massachusetts, in America. So I want to read a section about it. One moment, I have to find. Prabhupada arrival. Prabhupada only had little in possession, and he was an old man. He was 68 or something like that. It's not the time to go to a new country with 68 if you're never adjusted to go there. And he was a sannyasi. It was forbidden for a sannyasi to go to the West. Actually, for any Hindu cultured man to go to the West was to go Mleccha country. It was degradation. You became practically rejected. And he was a sannyasi. Because he carried a higher mission in his heart. He wanted to bring holy place of Vrindavan everywhere, all over the world. Because he was Tirtha himself, a wandering Tirtha, traveling Tirtha. Vidya Vinaya Sampar, what is the verse of the Tirtha? Tirtha kurvanti tirthani svantakstena kata bhavat vidi bhagavata Tirtha bhutva svayam vibho Tirthi kurvanti tirthani kantasvena kataprita. So Yudhishthira Maharaj, he complimented Vidura when he came back from pilgrimage places, and he told him, you are pilgrimage place in yourself because you always carry Krishna with you wherever you go. So Srila Prabhupada, although he so-called left Vrindavan, yet he took Vrindavan, Krishna, everything with him to bring to the West, to those who had forgotten Krishna. And he didn't know how he will survive there. So only food. So they told him, Swamiji, you cannot live good in America because it's not sure what kind of food they have there. Mostly they're meat eaters and not vegetarian. So it's not for Vaishnavas. You cannot survive one day there without with this situation. So he took some some grains with him. So that's stated here by Satsvarup Maharaj in his biography. At the day of his departure, approached, Bhaktivedanta Swami took stock of his meager possessions. He had only a suitcase with his little belongings, an umbrella, and a supply of dry cereal. Most probably Thalia, so that he can make some kind of a cereal in case there's no vegetarian food available. He did not know what he would find to eat in America. Perhaps there would be only meat. If so, he was prepared to live on boiled potatoes and the cereal. His main baggage, several trunks of his books. He took 200 sets of Bhagavatam with him, first canto, in 3 parts. Was being handled separately by Scindia Cargo, that means the steamship company. 200 3-volume sets. The very thought of the books gave him confidence. So it was very. Swamiji didn't want to go to the West without books, so he prepared 6 years to live here in Vrindavan, Radha Damodar, to translate this first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And when these books were ready and everything, he got all the permissions and papers and passports, so and the invitation and everything that was needed at that time. Even today is needed. It was not easy. That time it was even more difficult. Especially had no money. Only money he had was about $7. How long you can live in America with $7? Not even 1 hour. So it's very difficult. So when the day came for him to leave, he needed that confidence. He was making a momentous break with his previous life, and he was dangerously old and not in strong health. And he was going to an unknown, probably unwelcoming country. To be poor and unknown in India was one thing. Even in these Kali Yuga days, when India's leaders were rejecting Vedic culture and imitating the West, it was still India. It was still the remnants of Vedic civilization. He had been able to see millionaires, governors, the prime minister, simply by showing up at the doors and waiting. A sannyasi was respected, the Srimad Bhagavatam was respected, but in America it would be different. He would be no one, a foreigner, a nobody, and there was no tradition of sadhus, no temples, no free ashrams. But when he thought of the books he was bringing, transcendental knowledge in English, he became confident. When he met someone in America, he would give him a flyer, Srimad Bhagavatam, India's message of peace and goodwill. So there's a first copy of Bhagavatam. He had the 3 volumes. That was the ship here. Oops. This is the ship, the Jaladuta. This is actually the original Jaladuta. There are 2 Jaladuta. This is the real one here. The Jaladuta, steamship. So he arrived in America on 17th September. Prabhupada Remembrance. During the voyage, Srila Prabhupada sometimes stood on deck at the ship's rail, watching the ocean and the sky and thinking of Chaitanya Charitamrita. He had 1 copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita with him for daily reading. Vrindavan Dham and the order of his spiritual master to go preach in the West. Mrs. Pandya, the captain's wife, whom Srila Prabhupada considered to be an intelligent and learned lady, foretold Srila Prabhupada's future. If he were to pass beyond this crisis in his health, she said, it would indicate the goodwill of Lord Krishna. The ocean voyage of 1965 was a calm one for the Jaladuta. The captain said that never in his entire career had he seen such a calm Atlantic crossing. Prabhupada replied that the calmness was Lord Krishna's mercy, and Mrs. Pandya asked Prabhupada to come back with them so that they might have another such crossing. Srila Prabhupada wrote in his diary, if the Atlantic would have shown its usual face, perhaps I would have died. But Lord Krishna has taken charge of the ship. And then Prabhupada also wrote 2 poems on the boat. One I would like to recite. This Markin Bhagavata Dharma. It was composed in 19th of September, 2 days after his arrival. He packed his whole missionary spirit in this prayer. Maybe time is too short. I will only read English. My dear Lord Krishna, you are so kind upon this useless soul, but I do not know why you have brought me here. Now you can do whatever you like with me. But I guess you have some business here. Otherwise, why would you bring me to this terrible place? Most of the population here is covered by the material modes of ignorance and passion. Absorbed in material life, they think themselves very happy and satisfied, and therefore they have no taste for the transcendental message of Vasudeva. I do not know how they will be able to understand it. But I know your causeless mercy can make everything possible because you are the most expert mystic. How will they understand the mellows of devotional service? O Lord, I am simply praying for your mercy so that I will be able to convince them about your message. All living entities have come under the control of the illusory energy by your will, and therefore, if you like, by your will, they can also be released from the clutches of illusion. I wish that you may deliver them. Therefore, if you so desire their deliverance, then only will they be able to understand your message. The words of Srimad Bhagavatam are your incarnation, and if a sober person repeatedly receives it with submissive oral reception, then he will be able to understand your message. It is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 1, 17 to 21, beginning with Srinvatam Svakata Krishna. That's the process described here. So I will not read this now. This is a quote from Bhagavatam. Prabhupada continues, he will become liberated from the influence of the modes of ignorance and passion, and thus all inauspicious things accumulated in the core of the heart will disappear. How will I make them understand this message of Krishna consciousness? I am very unfortunate, unqualified, and the most fallen. Therefore, I am seeking your benediction so that I can convince them, for I am powerless to do so on my own. Somehow or other, my Lord, O Lord, you have brought me here to speak about you. Now, my Lord, it is up to you to make me a success or failure as you like. O spiritual master of all the worlds, I can simply repeat your message, so if you like, you can make my power of speaking suitable for their understanding. Only by your causeless mercy will my words become pure. I am sure that when this transcendental message penetrates their hearts, they will certainly feel engladdened and thus become liberated from all unhappy conditions of life. O Lord, I am just like a puppet in your hands, so if you have brought me here to dance, then make me dance, make me dance. O Lord, make me dance as you like. I have no devotion, nor do I have any knowledge, but I have strong faith in the holy name of Krishna. I have been designated as Bhakti-Vedanta, and now, if you like, you can fulfill the real purport of Bhakti-Vedanta. Signed, the most unfortunate, insignificant beggar, A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami, on board the ship Jaladuta Commonwealth Pier, Boston, Massachusetts, USA, dated 18th of September 1965. Helplessly he spoke his heart directly to the Lord. I wish that you may deliver them. I am seeking your benediction so that I can convince them. And for convincing them, he would trust in the power of the Lord's holy name and in the Srimad Bhagavatam. This transcendental sound would clean away desire for material enjoyment from their hearts and awakening loving service to Krishna. On the streets of Boston, Prabhupada was aware of the power of ignorance and passion that dominated the city, but he had faith in the transcendental process. He was tiny, but God was infinite, and God was Krishna, his dear friend. So America, big city, New York, and Prabhupada just arrived from village of Vrindavan at that time to this place here, alone, with no money, just with the mission, with the books, and with the holy name, and with the mission of Guru in his heart. And he became victorious by the holy name, the great victory of the Sankirtan. Param Vijay Desi Krishna Sankirtan. Srila Prabhupada was dressed appropriately for a resident of Vrindavan. He wore kantimala, neck beads, and a simply cotton dhoti, and he carried japa mala, chanting beads, and an old chadar. His complexion was golden, his head shaven, shika in the back, his forehead decorated with the whitish Vaishnava tilak. He wore pointed white rubber slippers, not uncommon for sadhus in India, but who in New York had ever seen or dreamed of anyone appearing like this Vaishnava? He was possibly the first Vaishnava sannyasi to arrive in New York, with uncompromised appearance. Of course, New Yorkers have an expertise in not giving much attention to any kind of strange new arrival. Srila Prabhupada was on his own. He had a sponsor, Mr. Agarwal, somewhere in Pennsylvania. Surely someone would be here to greet him, although he had little idea of what to do as he walked off the ship onto the pier. He said, "I did not know whether to turn left or right." He passed through the dockside formalities and was met by a representative from Travelers Aid, sent by the Agarwals in Pennsylvania, who offered to take him to the Scindia ticket office in Manhattan to book his return passage to India. At the Scindia office, Prabhupada spoke with the ticket agent Joseph Forster, who was impressed by his unusual passenger's Vaishnava appearance, his light luggage, and his apparent poverty. He regarded Prabhupada as a priest. Most of Scindia's passengers were businessmen or families, so Mr. Forster had never seen a passenger wearing the traditional Vaishnava dress of India. He found Srila Prabhupada to be a pleasant gentleman who spoke of the nice accommodations and treatment he had received aboard the Jaladuta. Prabhupada asked Mr. Forster to hold space for him on a return ship to India. Because Prabhupada, he didn't know how long he will stay, maybe 3 months and then going back, but then he could stay longer, prolonging his visa like that. His plans were to leave in about 2 months, and he told Mr. Forster that he would keep in touch, carrying only 40 rupees cash, which he himself called a few hours spending in New York, and an additional $20 he had collected from selling the 3 volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam to Captain Pandya. Srila Prabhupada, with umbrella and suitcase in hand and still escorted by the Travelers Aid representative, set out for the Port Authority bus terminal to arrange for his trip to Butler, Pennsylvania. So that's from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, 12th chapter, the journey to America. And in the beginning, actually there's a quote, why Prabhupada decided to go not to London or any other place in the world, but to New York, America. So he says, "I planned that I must go to America. Generally they go to London, but I did not want to go to London. I was simply thinking how to go to New York. I was scheming whether I shall go this way through Tokyo, Japan, or that way. Which way is cheaper? That was my proposal, and I was targeting to New York always. Sometimes I was dreaming that I have come to New York." Srila Prabhupada quote. So, Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.